Okay,
And just a disclaimer, these slides are for informational purposes only, okay? So for advice specific to any situation, you would have to consult a legal counsel or the Office of Legal Affairs. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so I'm going to start with a poll. So just to ask everyone, how do we normally search for images? And I'm going to launch a poll. Okay, and if you can just indicate how often do you use images in your presentations? And where do you normally source for these images? Okay, yeah, so lots of people are indicating now, and I'll share the results. I'll just give some time for more people to respond. All right, so I'm going to end the poll now. Okay, don't worry, this poll is completely anonymous, so we won't record your poll results or anything, okay? And I'm going to end the poll, and I will share the results with all of you. So if you can see, okay, so it looks like many of us either use images always, often, or sometimes. And in terms of where we source for images, it's Google. Okay, some people use online databases, so specific databases, screenshots, clip art. Okay, personally, I always use images, and I source for images from a combination of all these sources. Okay, so I'll stop sharing the results. And let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so today's agenda. First, I'll be going over copyright basics as applied to images. And then after going over copyright, I'll talk about the images themselves, where you can find them. And then finally, I'll go over finding how you can locate the license terms that govern the copyright of these images and also other media. Okay? Okay, so let's start with copyright. Why can't we just take any picture and kind of use it in our presentation or just upload it to our blog or whatever post we may be doing, right? Okay, I'll start with a story. So this is something that happened in 2008 during the Obama campaign. So this is the Obama Hope poster, and it became a very well-known poster for Obama's campaign, and it was even used with the campaign's approval. And it was created by Mr. Shepard Fairey. Okay, so it was very, very, very widely used. And after Obama won in 2008, what happened was in 2009, the Associated Press came to Mr. Fairey and they said, hey, the image that you used to create your poster is owned by us. We own the copyright to that image and you infringed our copyright. So if you look at them side by side, the image on the left is the one that was taken by an Associated Press photographer, Manny Garcia. And so this kind of started a legal battle between the two. And I think Mr. Fairey was involved in it for about 2 years, and eventually it was settled out of court. But I think that's 2 years of wasted effort, definitely legal fees, reputation. This thing became very big, very widely reported. And he could have probably avoided all this by using another photo that had already copyright permission had already been granted, or he could have asked them for permission to use the photo in his poster or something, and he could have avoided all this. Okay, you can read out more on the case in Wikipedia. It's very, very widely reported. But this is just to illustrate that copyright infringement does have consequences, and there are lots of cases also in Singapore of copyright. If you need help looking for them on Lawnet, I can assist you. But okay, today we'll just focus on copyright as applied to images. Okay, so that's why we can't just use any picture. And in Singapore, copyright protection is automatic. So what this means is that you don't need to like put a copyright sign, you know, like a C with a circle around it. You don't need to tell anyone like, oh, this is copyrighted for it to be protected. You don't need to register your copyright. Okay, the moment you say use your handphone to take a photo, or you record a video, or you write a blog post, all those things are automatically protected by copyright and you own them, and the respective people who create their own original creations own them. So that's why you cannot just use I can't just plug someone's image and just use it as I wish. Okay, so now that we know that copyright protects all these things, what exactly does protection entail, right? Okay, so what can the copyright owner do and prevent others from doing? So the first thing would be to reproduce the work. So in the digital sense, it would be like copy and paste the work. So if I copied and pasted a copyrighted image into my PowerPoint without the permission of the owner, all these would this would constitute reproducing the work. Okay, publishing the work. So if I get an image and I put it into a book that I want to commercially publish, that would also be infringement. Performing the work. This one applies more to dramatic works like plays. Okay, communicate the work. Taking an image and posting it on a blog, and a public blog, that's communicating it to the world, or putting it in an email and then sending it out to a bunch of people, that's also communicating. And finally, adapting the work. So for example, adapting a novel into a play, right? So these are things that copyright owners can prevent others from doing. Okay, so now we're just going to, now that we've talked about protection, how do we know when an image is protected? Okay, what are some clues that an image might be protected by copyright? So let's, for example, I'm going to show you 3 images. So this is the first image. How can you tell that this image is copyrighted? Okay, so the answer is, okay, there is a copyright notice in the bottom right-hand corner. It says there, copyright symbol, all rights reserved, 2020. Sometimes it will even say who owns that image. So sometimes they will put the copyright and then the name and then all rights reserved. Okay, and then if you want to use that image, you can ask the owner for permission. Okay, so on to the next photo. Okay, how can you tell that this image is copyrighted? Okay, this one is kind of a no-brainer because there is a huge watermark on the image. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to let Suyan share with you a story that she has about watermarks.
Yeah, I was once helping to grade some presentations by grad students, and they were supposed to do presentations as if they were presenting to some venture capitalists for their innovations. And there was one particular presentation where they had a very professionally done set of slides, you know, and everything. But then somewhere in the middle of the presentation, right, they started using images that had all these Getty's images, watermarks across the graphics that they were using. And immediately that ruined the whole tone of the presentation. Because when you're trying to present yourself as professionals, as people with a particular innovation that is very marketable, you don't want to ruin that sense of professionalism by using images that have very clear watermarks or any kind of distinctive sign of like ownership on it, you see. So when you are using images from online, you have to be very clear, sure that the images are very clean and they are clear of these watermarks and all rights reserved kind of images. So you have to ensure that you're getting the correct copyrighted image. Otherwise, you come across as being very unprofessional.
Okay. Thank you, Suyan, for sharing that. Yeah. So we will be showing you how to look for photos that are copyright free and contain no watermarks. Okay. So there are some very, very good quality photos out there that are available for free. Okay. And then finally, this is the last image. How can you tell this image is copyrighted? Are there any clues? And actually, there's nothing on the face of it that tells you that it is copyrighted. But nevertheless, if you do not own the image, just assume that it's copyrighted so that you don't accidentally infringe someone's copyright. Okay, and if you want to use it, find out who the owner is and ask that person for permission to use it. Right. Okay. So all those three examples just illustrate the principle that copyright protection is automatic. Okay, so at this point, I don't know how many of you have this question, but maybe you have this question, okay? Do I need permission before I use every single photo, right? Do I need to go through that long process? Okay, the bad news is, okay, generally, yes, okay, every single copyrighted work that you use should have already permission granted by the owner. Okay, but okay, there's also good news with every bad news. And the good news is that, okay, there is a whole reservoir of media, images, videos, music, sound clips, where creators have already granted permission. They have said, hey, I don't want, I'm okay with everyone using my images, okay? And then they just stipulate certain conditions. So that's one option. And then there are also works that are in the public where people have either dedicated their work to the public domain and said that anyone can use it unconditionally, or copyright has expired in certain of the media and then it becomes in the public domain. Right, so at this point, we are just going to do another poll. Okay, this is a knowledge check, just to check, just for all of you to kind of like see whether if you'd like to check your knowledge. So I'm going to launch another poll. Okay, and the questions are, is the copyright symbol required for copyright protection? Is that true or false? And then in Singapore, is registration required for copyright protection? Okay, so I'll just give a few more seconds for people to respond. Okay, and I will end the poll soon. Okay, so I'm just going to end the poll. Okay, and I will share the results with you. Okay, so majority got both answers correct. Okay, the copyright symbol is not required for copyright protection. All the copyright symbol does is tell you that the work is copyrighted, but copyright arises automatically. So even if there is no copyright symbol on an image or on a text, it is nevertheless protected by copyright. And same for registration. In fact, Singapore doesn't even have a registration system. US has a registration system. There is no registration system for copyright in Singapore. Copyright arises automatically. Okay, so I will stop sharing.
Susan, there's a question on the chat. Does copyright protection cover vector images? If so, where are some sites we can find non-copyrighted vector images? Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for your question. Yes, copyright does cover vector images, and we will share with you some websites that contain vector images later on. Okay, we prepared kind of like a library guide, and we'll be sharing the link. Suyan will help to share the link in the chat later on, somewhere in the middle of the presentation. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I'll stop sharing these poll results now, and we will move on. Okay, so to pick up where we left off just now. Okay, so the good news is that some works are in the public domain. And so where do we find these? Where do we find these works? So thank you, whoever asked about the vectors. Okay, so there are actually tons and tons of images that you can find for free. So these are just a sampling that I took of some of the databases. So these are all free, very high quality images. Okay, so for the next section, now that we've kind of gone over the basics of copyright, I will go over the sources of free photos, videos, and music. And okay, it's good to go directly to the database because these photos may not always be the first results on Google search. Okay, Google doesn't rank the images by whether you can use them for free or not. Google ranks them by relevance to the keywords that you input according to the algorithm. So if you can go directly to these websites that I'll be just sharing later, it might be a lot easier to find what you're looking for and find better quality images. Okay, and
Susan,
then after,
sorry.
yes.
There was a question from Ivan that says that how would you protect a copyrighted work if somebody copies it?
How would you protect a copy? Oh, okay. Uh, we can take this offline, okay, to avoid it.
It's a bit complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, also avoid it becoming legal advice. Yeah, but thank you for your question. It is a very good question and very legitimate. Okay, yeah, okay. Maybe at the end. Okay, so after that, I'll talk about how to locate the specific license terms. And then finally, I'll go over Creative Commons. Now, Creative Commons is one of the most commonly used open license schemes that are applied to content to like make it free and available. Okay, so let's start with sources of free photos, videos, and music. So there is a link here. Sorry. Okay, there is a library guide that we have created containing selected free sources of image, sound, music, videos, and then also some information on copyright, licensing, and attribution. And Suyan will be putting that in the chat. And okay, at this point, I'll also kind of break for 3 minutes. So I won't be going over much. I'll just walk people through through this guide. So if you want to take a break, I mean, go like grab a snack or something. We'll be back at 11:21. Okay, and in the meantime, I will just show you the guide. Okay. So this is the guide that we created, right? And so there are some free image sites here. Pexels, Pixabay, FreePic. Okay, and then vectors. If you're looking for vectors here. Okay, so some of the websites are only free for personal use. So if you're going to be using it for commercial purposes, you would have to go to a website that allows commercial use explicitly. Okay, and there's also artwork. Okay, sound and music. Some of the websites contain sound effects, like if you want a button click, not like a mouse click or like a car zooming past, they have those, or some have music. So like, for example, the music that we played at the beginning of this presentation during the waiting room was taken from Ben Sound. Okay, and then finally, there are videos. Okay, videos are, I normally use these websites to look for videos in my own video creation. So if I'm creating a video collage, I'll be downloading maybe like a bunch of videos to illustrate the points I'm making. Okay, and then at the end, there's some information on Creative Commons. Okay, don't worry if this is all like reading a foreign language right now. I will be going over what the abbreviations mean of Creative Commons licenses later on, and then also how to attribute, because some of the requirements of using these free images is that you must attribute the author. So these are examples of how to attribute. Okay, so maybe I'll give it another minute before I continue with the slides. Okay, in the meantime, just feel free to have a short shut eye or nap, or yeah. Okay, so it's 11:21. Okay, thank you everyone for waiting. All right, so hopefully you've had some time to go into those websites and just maybe look for what you are looking you need, or something that might be potentially relevant to you. I won't be going in depth into searching these websites because we all have varying needs and varying, I don't know, maybe uses for these materials. So I won't um, go in depth into something that maybe a large portion of the audience might not find relevant. So feel free to click around and use that. Okay, but in the meantime, I'm going to go over some search tips. Okay, so searching for media like images or videos might be tricky because it's a bit different from searching for text, because they don't contain the exact words that maybe describe the video. So if you're not finding what you are looking for in your first few searches, don't worry, okay? I normally take quite a few searches sometimes if I'm looking for more abstract concepts. So you can try broadening or narrowing your search if you can't find what you're looking for, okay? So for example, just an example of how to search for images, okay? If you're looking for an image of student group meetings and you type in meetings, you will get a bunch of images of people having corporate meetings, right? And then if you type in group meetings, it will be more corporate meetings, right? So you really have to be more specific in this case and put in student group meetings. And then you start getting what you're looking for, right? Okay, so for concrete concepts like this, where it's easily depicted, it's a bit easier to look for. Like if you're looking for a flower or birds, generally those are okay. But the more difficult things to search for might be things like that represent abstract concepts. Like maybe if you are looking for images that represent compassion, okay, it might be a bit more challenging. So when I search for compassion in Flickr, one of the free image websites, this is what I got. So it's kind of a mix of things like some words that just explicitly say compassion, and then there are some more more representative ones, like maybe religious figures or just people helping one another. Okay, and so what one of my colleagues suggested is that maybe you need to think of an image that represents very well what you are, the abstract concept that you are trying to explain. So she said, like, for example, for compassion, why don't you just Google, like, why don't you just search up hands? So I searched up hands in another database, and I think that these images maybe very well also could represent compassion. So for more abstract concepts, you may not be able to find exactly what pictures that exactly represent them, but you can just think out of the box a bit and maybe be a bit more creative when looking for these images. Okay, so now that we've gone over slightly a bit of how to search in the databases, I'm going to go into the databases and show you how to look for the actual terms and conditions that govern these images that
Oh,
tell you they
Sujan,
are.
there's a question on the chat, right? Are we
Yeah.
allowed to show YouTube in classes or insert YouTube links into our notes?
Okay, so YouTube, right? You can insert links and then get the students to click it themselves. Yeah. As for screening it over Zoom, I'm not sure. Okay.
I believe I've seen it in the terms of service, right? That you
Uh-huh.
can show YouTube videos if it's for educational purposes only and not for profit, but you cannot download the videos and then play it elsewhere. So you can sort of like provide a link during your class, and show that video, but you can't save it.
Mm. I
Yeah, so
believe,
you may have to check the terms of service for YouTube for
yeah.
that.
There are some videos that can be downloaded, I think, using YouTube download service, not the illegitimate downloading
Yeah.
services. But YouTube does have their own downloading service also, I think.
Yes. So
Yeah.
YouTube has audio and visual clips, right, that you can actually use for free. So they have audio libraries and video libraries
Mm,
that are more targeted to their own YouTube broadcasters, so that they
mm,
can use copyright free material. But
yeah.
those items are usually either public domain or free to use. But
Mm,
in general, YouTube videos, you can show them for
yeah.
educational purposes.
Mm.
Uh,
And
although
you,
it is best to go and check the terms of service lah. Yeah.
yeah. And if you want to specifically search for free YouTube videos, like Creative Commons YouTube videos that are licensed for free use, I think there is a filter that you can select on YouTube. But okay, if you want, you can send us an email. I can show you how to filter it out. Okay, yeah, but thank you for the question. Yeah, it's another good question. Okay, so that's YouTube. So this is Pexels. Okay, this is a free image database. So say I am searching on Pexels and I really like this image of an office and I really want to use it in my presentation. How do I know the applications of this image? Okay, it says you're free to use. Okay, but are there any other conditions? So for this, for Pexels, if I click info, it says you're free to use, no attribution required. Learn more about the license. So if I click on that, it will bring me to the Pexels license. So Pexels is an example of a database where there is one license that applies across the board to all their images. So all photos and videos and pixels are free to use. Attribution is not required. You can modify the photos as you like. Okay, and then what is not allowed? So they tell you what you cannot do with it. So you cannot make the people appear in a bad light or in a way that is offensive. You cannot resell the images, and you cannot use it to endorse products or brands. Okay, so certain commercial users are not allowed. Okay, and you also cannot redistribute them. Okay, so that is an example of a license. So if it is not these, you are free to use it, right? Okay, so that is Pexels. Another example might be Unsplash. Okay, say I'm looking for pictures of food. Okay, and I want to use this image in my book. Okay, and is there any information okay, it says here download free, but are there any other conditions? I click info. Okay, there's nothing. Okay, so for this example, you would actually have to go to the about section of Unsplash and scroll down, and then it says here, learn more about the Unsplash license. So it says explicitly here, all photos can be downloaded and used for free for both commercial and non-commercial purposes. So a bit broader than the Pexels license, and then no permission needed, right? Although attribution is appreciated. And then you cannot resell or redistribute or set up a similar or competing service with the images. So so Pexels and Unsplash are kind of examples where there is one license that applies across the board for the entire database of images. Okay, I'll give you an example of images that you cannot use. Okay, so say you are reading the Straits Times online, and then you see this image of this Korean japchae, and you're like, oh wow, I really, really want to use that in my class. Can you use it? Okay. It says here Straits Times photo by Hidi Koo. So if you scroll for websites like this where it's not a database, if you go to the terms and conditions, they will normally tell you what you can use the image for, or what you can use the content on the website for. So for the Straits Times one, it says here under intellectual property that the copyrights and blah, 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 all intellectual property shall vest and remain with SPH. So it just means that it's owned by SPH, and there's nothing here that says that you are allowed to use their images, okay? And then if you have any questions, right, please contact them, right? So this is an image that maybe if you want to use it, it would be better to ask the website. Okay, so on to the next database. Okay, so this is Flickr. Okay, Flickr is a bit different from the other two images that we have, free image databases we have gone through. Flickr is also free in a sense that it contains a mixture of both free to use and images that you are not free to use, that are all rights reserved. Okay, so for this one, each image has its own specific copyright license, and the images can be licensed differently. So for this image by Mr. Udo, he has decided to upload it and license it, some rights reserved. And if you click on this license, it will bring you to a Creative Commons license. So the Creative Commons standard license that he has applied to this image, and he's telling you, okay, so you may freely copy and redistribute, but you must attribute, you cannot use it for commercial purposes, and you cannot, no derivatives, meaning you cannot change the image. You have to use the image in its original form. So this image can only be used in this form.
Xiu Zhen, there's a
Yes.
question on chat that says that if they take a screenshot of a news article from a website and show it in their class, is that allowed?
Oh, okay. That one would be in the zone of maybe, okay. Maybe I'll answer this after the class. I can like reply you via email, because it's very difficult to make a judgment immediately. Yeah, actually, copyright assessments are quite contextual, and normally I'm part of the copyright team in the library, and we do get a lot of questions about whether we can use images and things like that. So actually our role is more education and awareness. So we might explain to you what the copyright states, and then you would know the facts of your situation better. So then after that you can make a judgment. So I will I can share with you some copyright like provisions to help you to decide whether you can use it or not. Okay? Okay, yeah, but thank you for your question. Okay, so I will move on to the next database, okay, which is a sound database, right? Okay, so if I just, okay, so for example, uplifted in my video. Can you guys hear this? Okay, so this is just an example of a music track that you might want to use. Okay, if you want to use it, how can you use it? It says here on the right hand side, Creative Commons. This work is licensed under the Attribution Non-Commercial License. Okay, so what is this? If we click on this, it will bring you to another Creative Commons website, okay, which says Attribution Non-Commercial 3.0 Unported CC BY-NC, which basically means after all those abbreviations that you are free to share it and adapt it as long as you attribute and your use is non-commercial. All right, so these are just examples of databases, and maybe now we will start to talk about Creative Commons. Okay, as you can see, some of these major databases of free media and images and music regularly use the Creative Commons license. So I'm just going to go back to my slides and we'll now talk about Creative Commons. So Creative Commons licensing scheme is a licensing scheme that allows creators of content to apply to their image or their creation to notify everyone in the world that here, it is free for use. You don't have to ask me permission as long as you comply with certain conditions. So the conditions can either be very, very open or very, very strict. Okay, so on the very, very open end of the scale is CC0, where there are no conditions at all. And then on the less open end, there are other conditions, like it has to be non-commercial and then no derivatives allowed. So I'll just go through all these abbreviations later. Okay, but first we start with the most open end, which is CC0 or public domain. Okay, the CC0 license is quite similar to public domain. It's slightly different, okay, but I will just explain what public domain means here and how things enter into the public domain. So on the left is an image of a fractal broccoli, and it has been placed in the public domain by Mr. John Sullivan. So John Sullivan has in this website PD Photos said, okay, this image is for free and all of you can use it for any purpose without any conditions. Okay, it's free to use. Now on the right hand side is an image of Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci, and he never ever put it into the public domain, but it is in the public domain because copyright has expired. Okay, a certain amount of time has elapsed after Da Vinci's death, and this image has now come into the public domain. So that is an example of the most open end of the scale in terms of what you can do with free images. And then on the less open end would be images like this bubble tea egg tart, which I found on Flickr, and it is licensed CC, BY, and CND. So lots of conditions. So it's not CC0, it has all these BY and CND. So what exactly do all these abbreviations mean, right? Okay, these are, okay, I will just go through them one by one, these four. Okay, starting with BY. So BY just stands for by attribution, which means that you have to attribute. Okay, so what does this mean? What does attribute mean? So for example, for this image of a sandwich, you would have to attribute Mr. Uso Desita. Okay, so you would say something like title of the work, which is a sandwich by Uso Desita, is licensed under CC BY. Okay, and then you can use the image provided you provide an attribution. Okay, so next. So how many of the Creative Commons licenses require attribution? Okay, basically all of them here, okay, require attribution. So attribution is kind of like a basic condition for most of the CC licenses except CC0. Okay, so at this point, we're just going to have another knowledge check, and I'm going to poll the audience.
Susan, just before the poll, right, there is a question about what constitutes commercial purpose. So if somebody is working within a company and they do a presentation within that company, is that also considered commercial purpose?
Okay. Okay, I'll be talking a bit about commercial purpose later. It is commercial purposes has been worded explicitly very broadly by CC, so it's subject to some interpretation. I'll come to that in the next point, okay? After the poll. Okay, so I'll just launch this poll on Creative Commons. Okay, just as a knowledge check for everyone. All right. Right, maybe I'll just give another few seconds for people to respond. All right, okay, I'll end the poll and share the results. Okay, so which is the most open Creative Commons license? Yes, it is CC0. Okay, CC BY is the second most open. It requires attribution. All rights reserved is not even a Creative Commons license. It's just it's a notice that people put on their copyrighted works to inform people that you are not allowed to use this work. Okay, and then as for question number 2, this by in CCBY stands for by artist. Okay, that is false. Okay, the BY in CCBY stands for by attribution. So if you
Researcher, we can only see the post slide.
oh, you
So
can't see it. Oh, okay.
yeah.
It is actually sharing. Okay, let me share results again. Can you see it?
Yes, sorry. Oh,
Ah,
you're pointing towards the poll results. Okay, sorry.
yeah, I'm talking to, oh, yeah, sorry, poll results. Yeah, so the BY actually stands for by attribution. So anytime you see BY in a license next to an image or a video or a piece of music, it means that you have to attribute the artist in your work. So that might mean like in a slide, you would put the artist like name and the title of the work. Okay, so I'll stop sharing now. Okay, thank you. And I'll move on to the next point, which is NC. So someone asked what non-commercial means. So it just means, and it is apparently worded deliberately, very flexibly by Creative Commons to mean not primarily intended for or directed towards commercial advantage or monetary compensation. Okay, so for example, and I think the example they gave is if you are going to use an image or a poem in a commercially published anthology, that would not be allowed. So I guess for example, for this image of a sandwich, which is licensed CC BY NC, so non-commercial, you would not be able to put it in a commercially published, say, book, and then use it. Okay, that would not be allowed. But maybe if you use an image that is licensed CC BY, as long as you attribute, you are allowed to use it in any way. Yeah. Okay, so that is NC. The next abbreviation, okay, so wait, sorry. How many of these Creative Commons licenses allow non-commercial uses? So basically, 3 of them. Okay, there's CC BY NC, CC BY NCSA, and NCND. So if these licenses are applied to the image, make sure you don't use it for a commercial purpose. Okay, the next abbreviation is ND, no derivatives. Okay, so it means that you shouldn't be changing the original creative work. So for example, Mona Lisa on the right, hypothetically, if Da Vinci had applied a no derivatives license to it, it would mean that you can use it in its original form, but you would not be able to say like change it into his ideal image of feminine beauty at that time into something very masculine, like on the right. Yes. Okay. So that is just to illustrate what no derivatives means. Okay, and no derivatives is present in 2 of the Creative Commons licenses. Now, the final abbreviation we are going over is share alike. Now, share alike just means that if you use the original work in a new work, so on the right, Mr. Duchamp has used the original Mona Lisa in his LHOOQ piece of work. And assuming, okay, so this is just hypothetically, okay, so if Da Vinci had shared his Mona Lisa under a share alike license where he stamped share alike, it means that Mr. Duchamp would also have to share his LHOOQ piece of artwork under the same license. Okay? So this one is a little bit trickier. It takes a little bit more thinking and digestion. Okay. So don't worry if you can't get it on the first hearing. Okay, and then so how many of the Creative Commons licenses are share alike? 2 of them here. Okay, so the principles also apply to other music and graphics that are shared under Creative Commons. And then finally, we'll just go a bit on attribution because all the Creative Commons licenses contain attribution, and even some of the other non-Creative Commons works, they say attribution is appreciated. So it would be nice to attribute. I've created the library guide. There's a page on attribution there. And just an example of how to attribute, the general minimum would be the creator's name, and then the title of the work. Okay, then for Creative Commons, they require an additional part that says is licensed under that Creative Commons work, and then you hyperlink the particular Creative Commons license. Okay, and then just to end off, we'll just end off with a poll on NC, just a knowledge check, and I will launch this poll now. Okay, so if an image is licensed NC, it means that you can only use it for non-commercial purposes. Is that true or false? And what does public domain mean? Does it mean you can use a work without any restrictions, or you have to ask the author for permission before using a work? All right, so I'll just wait a few more seconds.
Oh, Xiuchen, there's a question on chat, right? Can you explain again the difference between the CC0 and public domain?
Oh, okay. Public domain, okay, CC0 actually has a set of terms. Okay, I can send you a link. There is a link that explains the difference. Give me, maybe I can take down if you give me your email anyway, you can send me an email. At the end, we will have the email, and then I can give you more information about that. So I'll just end the poll and then share the results. Okay, if I end the poll now and then share these results. Okay, so it looks like most people got it correct. Okay, if an image is licensed NC, it means that you can only use the image for non-commercial purposes. That's correct. And then what does public domain mean? Okay, it means that, yes, you can use the work without any restrictions, okay? And you don't have to ask the author for permission. So I'll stop sharing that. And okay, just to recap, so we have gone through today just some basic principles of copyright as applied to images, and some sources of free images, sounds, music, and videos in the library guide that we shared, and then how to find out what kind of licensing terms apply and how you can, what uses you can use these free images for. And we've also gone through Creative Commons and all the little abbreviations, how to interpret these so that you can use all this media and these contents appropriately. Okay, if you have any questions, so if I haven't responded adequately to your questions in this live session, you can please email askalib@nus.edu.sg, and I will be happy to reply you by email. Sorry if I can't give you an explanation now. Sometimes these things take a very long time to explain, so it'd be easier, definitely be easier by email. And okay, and if you have any feedback, if you'd like to help us improve, it's really appreciated if you can scan the QR code or go to this link and provide some feedback. We do read it and we do take it into account when we run future runs of these courses, so it would be really appreciated. Okay, thank you. So are there any other questions that I haven't Suyen?
Yeah, there are a couple of questions on the chat.
Okay, wait, let
Yeah.
me go to the chat. Give me a moment. All right. Okay. Okay, so okay, give me some time to read through it. Okay, yeah, there's some questions on branding. Okay, yeah, branding is under trademark law. Um, okay, someone asked, is it sufficient for us to put a credit line when using images? Or should we contact the owner of the image? So if the image states that you may use it, provided you attribute, then feel free to use it. But if it doesn't say anything about this image is free to use under Creative Commons, then it might be better to contact the owner first. Mm.
Oh, sorry. I think give me 1 second. The feedback link may be there may be some issue with it. Just give me 1 minute to find the
Okay,
updated
yeah, there's
one.
some questions. Oh, this PowerPoint will be shared after the webinar and also this recording, so no worries. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, there's a question by Ziying Wang. For the SA license, if you modify an image, then your work will have to be shared using the same license. Yeah, so if you modify that work and you're using that work and there's an SA license on it, you have to share it under the same license. Si Rui Chen. Yes, CC0 and public domain. Yeah, wait, let's see. Okay, Suraj says, where are the video and slides shared? Okay, so these will be shared on the link that Suyen has provided.
We
Oh,
will email all participants once the video and the slides have been uploaded. It will take us a bit of time because it takes some time to process the video and upload it. So probably I think latest by around Friday, we should have the links up and then email to you. If you don't get it through the email, because sometimes we send it by mass email, it gets automatically routed into the spam folder. So you can also check our library portal because we will also put up links to the uploaded videos and slides. So our colleague Magdalene has already sent the website for you. Yeah, so if by say Friday you don't get an email from us, you can also check out the RU website for any of these slides for past workshops.
okay, so I think, wait, there are 4 new messages.
What is
Yeah.
classified as a similar enough work to be considered under SA license?
Oh, okay. That one, I think similar enough work to be considered. Oh, you're asking at what point does it? Oh, right. Okay. It's very difficult to. All these have to be assessed according to the facts. Yeah.
I think that's why you frequently get a lot of these copyright suits, right? That are being leveled against between big companies, because it's a very qualitative issue. So
Mm.
it can involve millions of dollars. So it's a bit
Yeah,
difficult for
that's
us
why
to
people
give a
pay millions of
definitive
dollars
answer.
to fight over these questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So actually, it has come to an end. So feel free to leave anytime. Suyan, will you be sending them the link to
Yes. So
yeah,
once we
so
upload the video and the slides, we will email everyone who has participated here.
mm,
If you do not get the email, just check out our RU website.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay, I'll just